Hey Scrap Bosses, welcome back to another process video. If you are new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. When you do, click the bell indicator. That way you'll know each and every time I post a new video on this channel. And by the way, I have exclusive content on the Victoria Marie Patreon page. If you wish to learn more about becoming a Victoria Marie Designs patron, make sure you click on the link down below for more information. So here's the layout that I have for you. This is a 12 by 12 single page layout with 2 photos. Printed my photos in black and white. And those photos were of my mom. I'm going to get to the story in just a second. To set up my background, what I wanted to do is I wanted to add typed titling directly to my layout. I simply typed it up in actually PowerPoint, and I set my page settings to 12 by 12 so that it can print on my large format printer, and that's an easy way to get that type journaling on your scrapbook layout. I'm also using several elements from about 3 or 4 Felicity Jane kits, so I had some stuff left over and I wanted to use it up. So I have some 3 by 4 journaling cards. I also have a strip of pattern paper that was hanging out, as well as these labels, which I'm actually not going to use on the layout eventually. And I have 2 stamp sets, along with some Felicity Jane die cuts and some those are rubber charms, and a variety of different letter stickers. And what I try to do is anytime that I have a kit with leftover elements, particularly like my Felicity Jane kits, they're all designed to sort of coordinate together. I want to use all those materials as much as I can. So the design for this layout is going to be really simple. I'm taking those 3 by 3 pocket cards, and what I'm doing is I'm creating a layering element, or really a foundation for my photos. Now, I printed my photos in black and white because that allows me to use any color on a layout, so it does give you some color freedom when you do that. And I did trim them down slightly smaller than 4 by 6. Now, these are photos of my mom, and we were at Walmart recently, and we were shopping around for potting soil because my mother loves to garden, and she can't garden the way that she used to due to her mobility issues. And so I took these pictures of her because it really occurred to me that our relationship has changed in terms of the roles that we play. And for those of you who have the responsibility of being the primary caretaker for a parent or for another relative, then I'm sure you can definitely empathize and relate to the challenges and the transitions for both the person you're taking care of and also yourself. So I'm going to get to a little bit more about that here in a second. So now that I have those photos laid out along with those 3 by 4 cards, I'm laying down some labels. Again, all of the materials I'm using are from several Felicity Jane kits, the Jill kit, the Lindsay kit, the London kit, and the Oh Dear kit. And I'll post links to all available products down below in the description box. I thought I was going to use those labels. Those are going to come up because I'm looking at it, it looks stupid, so I just leave it there. I'm going to go ahead and work on my title. So the title of this layout is called Changing Tide. And the reason why I wanted to name this layout Changing Tide is I heard someone say once, and I don't know if it was a college professor that I have 2 degrees in human development, so I'm very interested in aging. So I don't know if it was a college professor or something where I've read that the parent-child relationship is like a changing tide, and that could not ring any truer for this point in my life. So I'm using the Felicity Jane London chipboard stickers as well as the Oh Dear black chipboard stickers. Those came out maybe a couple of years ago to spell out Changing Tide. And I like using 2 different font styles because it adds a lot of interest to a layout. So if you are looking for something to sort of elevate your layout a little bit, try playing around with how your title looks by using 2 different font styles and maybe 2 different colors as well. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere down a little tab that I made with my tab punch, and that's going to house the date. Now on this layout, I have some fussy cut flowers, and I'm going to make those from a stamp set. That's the Jill stamp set. I also have some Nuvo embossing ink, some fine embossing ink, as well as some Nuvo clear mark adhesive, embossing ink rather, and you can get those from Tonic, and I'll post a link down below. To prepare my paper, I'm laying down some anti-static powder with my little powder tool there. I'm going to go ahead and position my stamp, and I'm using a stamp platform so I can make sure I get really good pressure on my stamp. Since I'm using some embossing ink, I want to make sure there's no gaps in the stamping. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that embossing ink, which, by the way, I do apologize for the shaking. I didn't realize that my camera mount was loose. And my table shakes, and it's a whole thing that I'm trying to figure out. So it's not you, it's me. I'm sorry, I'm still trying to work it out. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle on some embossing powder right over that embossed image. And I want to make sure that embossing powder covers the entire image. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this with my heat tool. And I'm going to fussy cut this. Now I'm going to cut out probably about 4 flowers. There's a smaller flower that comes with that stamp set. This is a really great way to create some unique embellishments for your layout. Also, you can get a lot of mileage out of your embossing products as well as your stamps. I could color this if I want to with some watercolors or some paints. I could have done a really cool distress ink background and then stamped an image on top of that distress ink background and then cut it out. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do with this. I decided to leave it black and white because a lot of the Felicity Jane kits have black and white elements to it, and I just really felt for this layout I was going to leave those floral images black and white. You can't quite see all the embossed detail there, but it's there and it looks really, really nice. It adds a bit of texture without being too overwhelming. So I fussy cut both of those flower clusters, and now I'm going to go ahead and layer those on. Now notice I'm not adding adhesive to the leaves, and I did that on purpose because I want to elevate those flowers just a tiny bit. I'm also going to add a smaller flower there to the bottom, and I'm going to layer that underneath my label. So I'm repeating that image across my page in a triangular fashion. So there goes that rule of threes there, and that really catches the eye when it's scanning across the scrapbook page. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up the smaller flowers using some adhesive foam, and what that's going to do is going to add just a little bit of dimension without it being too bulky. So now that I have these details on, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the story behind this, because I posted this layout on my Instagram, and there are some people who were very, very interested in the story and who messaged me and said, you know what, I'm going through this exact same thing. I'm at this point in my life. And so the title reads, I once heard someone say that the parent-child relationship is like a changing tide. Along the way, the child becomes the caretaker as the parent ages. I assumed the role of caretaker in 2008 when Mom was diagnosed with transverse myelitis. From that point on, I knew that one day the roles would shift slightly. As my mom ages, she is becoming more dependent on me for things she cannot do anymore, and I have mixed feelings about this transition. I'm in denial about my mom's declining physical abilities. She is strong in mind, but her body has slowed down considerably, making the things she once enjoyed, like gardening or doing simple household tasks, very difficult. I can see the frustration in her eyes. She repeats herself a lot more than she used to. She tells me the same stories constantly and constantly reminds me of things, typical pattern of aging. She is worried about falling and not being able to drive. She lived on her own for years until we bought a house together in 2018, something that Bree and I had planned for a long time. The transition from living on her own to living with us has been hard. We argued and fought, yet seemingly found equilibrium and understanding as three grown adults who share the responsibility of cohabitating in a multi-generational household. Downsizing is often not easy for many seniors. Mom is no exception. I remember Mom as a younger woman and all the things she used to do, but I had to come to terms that she is aging, and with that, our roles are shifting. I try really hard to put myself in her shoes, to understand how she feels. During my times of frustration, stress, and sadness, I also feel incredibly lucky to be in a position where I can be there for her. She is still very strong, independent, and sassy, but with each passing year, she needs me just a little bit more. And here I will be, because I am my mother's daughter, and it is an honor to assume the role of caretaker. I welcome the changing tide. Sometimes scrapbooking is very therapeutic for me, and sometimes I tell these stories as a way of being able to get them out when I can't necessarily voice how I'm feeling. And I think the journaling on this layout perfectly describes how I'm feeling right now. It's a lot of mixed feelings, but still, I wouldn't have anybody else caring for my mama except for me. So as I was narrating the journaling, I added a little bit more detail to the layout. I felt that those clusters needed a bit more color. So I added the remaining pieces of the Lindsay rubber charms as well as some floral die cuts to complete my layout. This video was made possible in part by the Victoria Marie Scrap Boss patrons. If you're interested in exclusive Victoria Marie content that you can't find anywhere else, from exclusive process videos to quarterly educational workshops to private sessions, tutorials, sketches, and much more, make sure you check it out. The link is posted down below. And if you haven't already subscribed to the Victoria Marie YouTube channel, make sure you do. Hit that subscribe button, click the bell indicator. That way you'll know each and every time I post a new video to this channel.